In this video, we're going to look at how to find the greatest common factor. We also have two solutions. One is by listing all the factors, and the second way is to use prime factorization. And these two ways are similar to what we did in the previous video, how to find the least common multiples. And first of all, we need to remember generally multiples are bigger and factors are smaller. So the answer we're gonna get should be a number smaller than 6 or 8, at most 6. So first the solution, and we want to list all the factors of each number. So for example, GCF, F here means factor, and factor is a number that can go into 6 and also can go into 8. And we know we can start with 1, and we know 1 goes into any number. So 1 goes into 6, and 2 goes into 6, 3 goes into 6, and 6 goes into 6. So we list all the factors of 6. And then next we list all factors of 8. 1 goes into 8, 2 goes into 8, 3 does not, 4 does, 5 does not, 6 does not, 7 does not, and 8 does. So after checking all the numbers smaller than 6 and 8, at most 6 or 8, and these are the factors we found. And C means common. Common, we are going to highlight the common ones. For example, we can see they both have a 1 and they both have a 2. And then G means the greatest. So we want to, out of these common ones, 1 and 2, we want to find the greatest one, the biggest one, which of course is 2. So using the method of making a list for to find the greatest common factor is not too bad if the numbers are small. But again, if you're given like a big number like 280, and it's going to be hard to do this way, because you're going to have to list a lot of factors, which are numbers that can go into 280, because 280 is a big number, and a lot of numbers can go into 280. So you may have a very, very long list, and that can take quite a while. So I still recommend the second solution, prime factorization. The first step is exactly the same as we did in the previous video of finding the least common multiple. So we're going to factor 6 and factor 8 as prime numbers. So we know 6 is 2 and 3, 8 is 2 and 2, and 2 times 2 times 2. So now, but the next step will be different. So if you still remember in the previous video, 2 videos, when we try to find the least common multiple, we don't really care how many numbers are in each column. As long as there is a column for this number, we bring down one number. Again, you may have 2 2s, you still bring down 1 2. You may have only 1 2, you bring down 1 2. So that's how we found the least common multiple. So you get 2 times 3 times 2 times 3, which is 24. But for a factor, common factor, that is completely different. Because remember, again, that goes because of the definition of factor. So factor is a number that has to be contained in 6. So not the least common multiple. Multiple is the other way around. Your answer has to contain 6, contain 8, which means your answer has to contain all of these numbers. That's why we have to bring down 1 from each column. But factor is containing 6 and containing 8. So out of these columns, we're going to try to find a column with 2 numbers. For example, the first column, because these 2's tell us 2 can go into 6, 2 can also go into 8. But if you have a column with only 1 2, for example, in the second column we have a 2 in the for 8. So which means there's another 2 that can go into 8. But unfortunately, we don't have another 2 for 6. So although another 2 can go into 8, we don't have another 2 that can go into 6. So common, remember common factor, common, we have to have found one common to both. And so we can only find one number, which is 2. And notice similarly, this 2 doesn't work either. This 3 doesn't work because this 3, although it can go into 6, and this 3 doesn't go into 8. So 3 is a factor of 6, but not a factor of 8, which makes it not a common factor. So to look for a common factor, we actually try to find a number that appears in both numbers. So one column with 2 numbers, which is 2. So the answer is 2. And again, we can see we got the same answer. Now, for smaller numbers, these two methods probably don't make huge difference. But if we have big numbers, again, the second solution will be quicker because you don't have to make a long list. Now, let's look at the greatest common factor of 3 numbers. So still, we're still gonna try to do this. This time, I'm gonna do the solution to prime factorization. So we're gonna break down 6, I'm gonna break down 15, and break down 28. In the previous example, I explained how to. In the previous video, I explained how to line up those numbers. So if you're not sure, go back to watch the video about finding the least common multiple of 3 numbers. And notice this time, after we lining up and we look at each column, we have to look for, because we have 3 numbers, and now you have to find a common factor that can go into all 3, which means you have to find a column with 3 numbers. But after checking, the first column only got 2 numbers, second column 2 numbers, third column 1 number, fourth column 1 number, fifth column 1 number. We don't even have a column that has 3 numbers, which means we cannot find a number that can go into all 3 of them. But it doesn't mean the answer doesn't exist, because the factoring we're doing is called a prime factorization, which means all the numbers, all the factors we see here are prime. But greatest common factor, this word factor doesn't have to be prime. It didn't say greatest common prime factor, so it could be a non-prime number. So we actually, the answer, when this happens, you will take the default answer, which is 1. And why is that? Because we know 1 is a number that can go into any number, which makes it a common factor of any numbers. If we allow us to use 1 in the factorization, you will be able to see there's 1 times 2 times 3, and there's 1 times 3 times 5 for 15. There's also 1 times 2 times 2 times 7, and you can see now, if we are allowed to use a non-prime number, then you will be able to see all of them have a 1. So when we use prime factorization method, and if you can find a number, a prime number as an answer, and then by default, the answer is going to be 1. Again, it's because 1 can go into any number. If you are using the listing method, you can see I list all numbers that can go into 6, all the numbers that can go into 15, all the numbers that can go into 28, and you can see 1 is a common one.